Today we are reviewing 15.4 similar solids. For our first type of problem, we are determining whether two shapes are similar. So here we have two cylinders, and we are going to write the side lengths as a ratio, and then we're going to compare the ratios to see if they're the same. So I'm going to put the radius on the top of my ratio over the height. So 8 over 18 for our first one, and then we're seeing, will that equal the same as 2 over 6. All right, so lots of different ways to do it. One is to look for multiplication patterns from one to the other. So I see here 8 times 3 equals 6, but I know on the top here it would have to be 8 times 4. So we don't have a consistent multiplication pattern, so no, these are not similar. Another way to do it would be to make it into simplest form fractions. 2 6 simplifies to 1/3. And then 8 over 18 would simplify to 4/9, and 4/9 and 1/3 are not equivalent fractions. All right, let's take a look at these two square pyramids. Same type of problem. Go ahead and pause the video for a minute and try this one to see if you can solve it on your own. Okay, let's check our answers. So for my larger pyramid, I'm going to do 10 over 6. It doesn't really matter which one goes on the top as long as you're consistent for the two shapes. So I just put the one I visually saw first. On this one, it was the height first over the edge of the base. And then I'm comparing to here 5 over 3. Okay, so let's see, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 6 divided by 2 equals 3. So this one's going to be yes. All right, let's take a look at our next one. So finding missing sides. When we're looking for missing sides on two similar figures, we are setting up and solving proportions to help us find missing values. So here it tells us the solids are similar, find the missing dimension. So I have h for my height and 5 feet. So I'm going to write h over 5 for the 5 feet. And then I'm going to write 18 over 15. I put my height on the top, h, and 18 are the height of the cones. And then I put the radius on the bottom, 5 and 15. Okay, so you can look for multiplication and division patterns, or you can do cross products. We've looked at lots of different ways to solve proportions this year, so it's really whatever you prefer. On this one, I always like to look to see if I see multiplication patterns to start on a proportion, and on this one I do. It's really a division pattern. 15 divided by 3 equals 5. So I can do 18 divided by 3 to get h, and h is going to equal 6. I do need a label. My label on this one's going to be feet. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own. Okay, let's check our answers. So for this one, it's actually two problems because there are two letters here that are missing. The height of the larger prism and then the width of the smaller prism. So we are going to set up ratios for our sides, and I need a common side, which would be this one, which is the length. This first part is available on both shapes. 12.5 for the larger, and then 5 for the smaller one. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to start with the height. 12.5 over h, and then 5, and then 15 is the height for this one. All right, let's do cross products on this one. We haven't done cross products yet in our video. 5 times h is 5h. And then I would need to do 15 times 12.5. That gives me 187.5. Then I would need to divide both sides by 5. So when I take that and I divide by 5, I get 37 and a half. And that would be centimeters. Always a good idea to at least look at the picture, make sure it makes sense. This is 12 and a half. This is 37 and a half. Yeah, that makes sense. If this little part's 5, 15 is 3 times bigger. I didn't have a side-to-side multiplication pattern, but I did have an up and down one. So I could have done 5 times 3 is 15, and 12 and a half times 5, 12 and a half times 3 gives me that 37 and a half. Okay, I found my height, but I haven't found my width yet. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to write a new proportion. I'm still going to have the 12 and a half and the 5. But this time now I'm going to include our width numbers. So 20 is on the bigger one, so it's going to go with the 12 and a half. And then we don't know. So that's W. All right, let's go ahead and do cross products again. 12 and a half times W is 12 and a half W. 5 times 20 is 100. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 12 and a half. And when I do 100 divided by 12 and a half, I get 8. And that's going to be centimeters. All right, so for surface area equals scale factor squared. When we have surface area problems, you're going to see that squared on the label. That's what we have to do to the ratio. If one side's getting 2 times bigger, the other side's getting 2 times bigger. Area is 2 dimensions, length and width, so you have to have that ratio multiplied to squared. That both the length and the width are getting multiplied by 2 or 4 or whatever. So we're going to write a ratio and then we're going to square it before we solve our proportion. All right, so let's start with this first one. 6 to 10. That's the ratio of the sides. I'm putting the one on the top, which happens to be the smaller one on the top here. The surface area of the smaller solid is 130 square feet. We're looking for the missing surface area here of the larger figure. Okay, I don't see easy multiplication pattern side to side, so let's do some cross products. 6 times, wow, I was so excited to solve this that I almost forgot the most important step. I said it before I started the problem, but I didn't actually do it. That ratio of the sides needs to be squared because it's surface area. So 6 squared, 36. 10 squared, 100. And then 130 over x. All right, now I'm ready to do some cross products. So 36 times x is 36x. 130 times 100 is going to give me 13,000. Then I'm going to divide that by 36. And I get 361.1 repeating feet squared. Okay, let's take a look at our next one. The surface area of the larger solid is 294.7 meters squared. Okay. 14 over 10. I chose to put the bigger one on top. So that means my larger surface area needs to go on top. 294.7. Okay. It is surface area, so we need to square. All right, so let's see. 14 squared means 14 times 14, and that is 196. 10 times 10 is 100. And then I have 294.7. I'm looking for x. All right, so 196 times x is 196x. 294.7 times 100 gives us 29,470. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 196. And we're going to get x equals 150. And then there's a really long decimal, so I'm just going to round to the nearest tenth, 0.4 tenths meters squared. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try this next one on your own. Okay, let's check our answers. 6 to 8. That ratio is going to be squared. And then here I have 198 is this goes with the smaller one. Smaller was on the top. 198. All right, so I need to square that ratio first. 36 over 64 equals 198 over x. 36 times x is 36x. 198 times 64 gives me 12,672. And then I need to divide both sides by 36. And that gives us x equals 352. That is going to be meters squared. All right, let's take a look at some volume problems. Volume is scale factor to the third power. So we solved these exactly the same way we solved the last ones, except this time we are cubing our ratios before we solve it, because volume has 3 dimensions. Our labels on volume have a cubed here because we're multiplying 3 things together, length, width, height, and all of them get bigger by 2 or 3 or whatever the scale factor is. So for our volume, we have to do our scale factor cubed. And to get that, we're going to use our ratio of our sides. All right, so 3 to 4. Cubed because it's volume. The smaller one's 250, so I put my smaller number on the top. So 250 needs to go on the top. All right, let's see. 3 to the third power is 27. 4 to the third power is 64. Okay, let's do some cross products. 27 times x is 27x. Then I need to do 250 times 64. I get 16,000. Then I need to divide by 27. I get 592, and a long decimal, I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, 0.6 millimeters cubed. Okay, let's try this next one. 6 over 3.2. This is a volume problem, so we need to cube that ratio of the sides. The larger one has a volume of 1,500. We're looking for the small. It doesn't matter which one goes on the top or which one goes on the bottom, but you have to be consistent. So I could have put the 3.2 on top. I'm just visually, whichever one is on the top here is what I'm writing on the top here. But you have to pay attention to which one it says this matches up with. So this one's the larger one. The larger one just happened to be on the top in this picture. Okay, 6 to the third power is 260. All right, and then I need to do 3.2 to the third power, which gives me 32.768. We're going to do some cross products, so 216x equals 49,152. We're taking that and dividing by 260. And we get 227 and 6/10, if I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, feet cubed. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and try this next one. Okay, let's check our answers. All right, 8 over 3. This is a volume problem, so I'm going to be cubing that ratio. Smaller is 54. I put my smaller on the bottom, so 54 on the bottom. Okay. 8 to the third power is 4,096. Holy moly, that seems really big. Let me double check that. 8 times 8 times 8. Ooh, yeah, I wasn't even close. I don't know what I typed in. Okay. I'm going to check that one more time. Make sure I have the right number before I go on. 512. Always a good idea to just think, does my answer make sense? Okay, 3 to the third power is 27. Okay, this one happens to have a multiplication pattern, so I'm going to use that strategy to solve here. I know that 27 times 2 equals 54. So I'm going to do 512 times 2 to get my x. So 512 times 2 gives me x equals 1,024 millimeters cubed. All right, let's try some story problems. So for this one, it says the ratio of the corresponding linear measures of two similar buckets of popcorn is 2 to 5. The larger bucket has a volume of 390 cubic inches. Find the volume of the smaller bucket. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. Okay, so here's my side length ratios, 2 to 5. I know this is volume, so that means I'm going to be cubing my ratio. And then it tells me that the larger one is 390. So the larger one goes with the 5. Means my 390 is going on the bottom. All right, 2 cubed is 8. 5 cubed is 125. Equals x over 390. I don't see any multiplication pattern, so let's do some cross products. 125x equals, and then I am going to do 8 times 390. I get 3,120. Then I need to divide by 125. And let's see, when I do 3,120 divided by 125, I get 24.96. Let's see, did they say to round? Yep, nearest tenth. So when I round that, I'm going to get 25.0. Because if I look at that 9, the 6 after it tells me to round this 9 to a 10. So it really becomes 25.0 or 25. Either would be fine. Inches cubed. All right, let's take a look at this next one. The ratio of the corresponding linear measures of two similar cans of cat food is 4:3. The larger can has a surface area of 100 square inches. Find the surface area of the smaller can. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. Go ahead and pause the video. Try this one on your own. Okay, let's check our answers. So our ratio for our sides is 4:3. This is surface area, so I'm going to square my numbers. They tell me that the larger can has a surface area of 100. 4 is the bigger number, so 100 goes on the top. All right, now we're ready to solve. 4 squared is 16. 3 squared is 9. So I have 16 over 9 equals 100 over x. I'm going to do cross products, so I have 16 times x, which is 16x, and then 9 times 100, which is 900. Then to cancel out the times 16, I'm going to divide by 16. So when I do 900 and I divide it by 16, I get 56 and 25 hundredths. And it does say to the nearest tenth. So I've got my 2. I look at the number behind it. 5 tells me I've got to round that up to 56.3. And then that is going to be inches squared. All right, last one. A box of 60 tissues has a length of 11 centimeters, a width of 10 centimeters, 10.5 centimeters, and a height of 13.5 centimeters. A, find the volume of the box of tissues. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. B, a similar box contains 100 tissues. The ratio of the corresponding linear measures of the two boxes is 3:5. Find the volume of the larger box. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. Go ahead and pause the video and try both parts of this problem. Okay, let's check our answer. So this is a box. And from the picture here, I can see that that is a rectangular prism. So I'm going to do 11 times 10.5 times 13.5. All right, so let's see. Length times width times height. 60 times 10.5 times 13.5. All right, so I have a volume of 8,505 cubic centimeters. All right. So it says a similar box contains 100 tissues. The ratio of the corresponding linear measures of the two boxes is 3:5. Find the volume of the larger box and round your answer to the nearest tenth. Okay, so 3:5. We're looking at volume, so this is going to be cubed. We know the volume of the smaller box is 8,505. We don't know what the volume of the bigger one is. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start by just cubing our ratios. So 3 to the third power is 27. 5 to the third power is 125. 8,505 over x. We'll do cross products. 27 times x is 27x. And then when we have 8,505 times 125, holy moly, it's a big number. 1,063,125 divided by 27 divided by 27. Okay, x equals 39,375. Seems really big. So I'm going to go back and double check my answers. I'm going to start by going back up here and making sure that number is right. So 11 times 10 and a half times 13 and a half. Oh yeah, I got a different number that time. No wonder my answer was so big. Okay, always good idea to go back and think, does my answer seem reasonable? So I'm gonna double check that one more time. 11 times 10 and a half times 13 and a half. Yeah, this should be, well, 1,559 and 25 thousandths. Okay. So now I need to fix this, and this, and this. The steps I did were right, but that first number was wrong, which messed everything else up. All right, so let's try that again. When I do 1,559.25 times 125, I get 194,906 and 25 hundredths. Divided by 27, still big, but not nearly as big, 7,218 and 75 hundredths. To the nearest tenth, ooh, I didn't round on either one. So up here, it looks like that should be 1,559.3 centimeters cubed. And on this one, it looks like that would be 7,218 and 8/10 centimeters